Hello and welcome to episode number 30 of Life.EV, a podcast that dives into exploring values. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, and I lead an air conditioning company, Nova, and Pure Blue, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. for conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey to uncover our true purpose and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.EV, where we explore values in life and business. And as always, I have with me Vivek Asrani. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Ajit. How are you? Good to be back on your show.
This is the 30th episode. And
Wow.
for everyone who's joining us for the first time, Vivek Asrani is the driving force behind Kmo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. Now, for close to 4 years, he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. His insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought provoking read is available on Amazon and his website, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional lives. In today's episode of Life.EV, we are delving into a compelling topic, that is, the distinction between the act of forgiveness and forgetting. So let's talk about the topic today is the act of forgiveness. Vivek, let's hear a reflection on this.
Ajit, I think the whole concept of forgiveness comes in when somebody has wronged us. Okay, and obviously when we have wronged somebody, that's when forgiveness comes in. And that's the time when we have to be the most careful with ourselves because at one level we feel validated in any reaction that we may have because we have been wronged. And I think that puts a certain level of responsibility and a heightened level of awareness onto us. And I'll tell you why. So, first of all, you know, where does this whole uh, feeling of forgiveness come from? And why is it good to forgive? I remember reading a lovely thing once that anger and hatred, are like acids that will burn the very container that contains them. And it's true for us as well. If we continue living with the hurt and the anger and the hatred towards somebody who has wronged us, then we are the container that's holding it. And that very emotion and feeling is going to burn us from within. So, first of all, we need to recognize that forgiving is an extremely important, if I may use the word, therapeutic thing for us because we are the ones who've been wrong. Second is we have to be careful that forgiving doesn't come from a sense of ego and a sense of superiority. Now, there are four aspects of forgiving. Where does it come from? Your initial question. First is it comes from accepting the fact that no one in this world is perfect. People will make mistakes, just as we ourselves will make mistakes. So, knowing that there will be situations where we will be wronged, we have to find that space to say, look, we're all humans, we're all on a journey. And yes, you made a mistake. And that's where my forgiveness, feeling of forgiveness comes from. The second is being completely honest with ourselves and knowing that we too make the same mistakes. So, therefore, when someone has wronged us, we should never take the moral high ground to say, oh, how could you do that to me? Yes, it may be true in that particular context, in that situation, but the fact is that we also make mistakes, right? So the second is it comes from our own internal honesty to say that, look, I also make mistakes, and there are times when I have wanted forgiveness, which leads me to the third aspect of forgiveness, that it comes from a deep sense of compassion, because the person who has hurt us, has wronged us, is probably also suffering. Uh, maybe, maybe not. We have suffered, So it comes from a sense of compassion, of relieving them of their suffering and their bondage, and in a way, kind of setting them free to say, "Listen, I'm putting this behind me. You also just kind of, put this behind you, and let's move on." And I mean, you may choose to move on together. You may choose not to move on together. That's a separate issue. But it also then comes from the fourth aspect of forgiveness, which is a sense of optimism to say that just because I've had a bad past with somebody doesn't mean that it has to always compromise a great future, which possibly we can make together. So once we recognize, Ajit, I think in us, that it's necessary for us to forgive because we are the containers that are holding this acid and we ourselves will get burned if we don't do something about it. So forgiveness is necessary for ourselves. Second is it is therapeutic for us and comes out of compassion, comes out of our own honesty, comes out of acceptance, and comes out of optimism. So we're actually unleashing a lot of positive emotions internally. And, you know, a broken bridge can only be fixed if we work on it. And forgiveness is, I think, the first step of working on that.
That's amazing. Yeah. But this also comes to a question. Some of us just keep it with ourselves and says, and not even want to take it up as a conversation. They say, just forget about it. So this leads into another question is, how do you differentiate between forgiving and forgetting? Is there a difference? And why should there be a difference? And what is it that we need to stay focused on forgiving?
Yeah, it's like this, that to my mind, we all have a memory. So obviously, we don't forget the fact that this happened to us. So you cannot erase it from your mind. You can't erase it from your memory. But everything that happens to us carries two things. One is the fact, second is the emotion associated with that fact, our hurt, our anger. When we forgive without forgetting, then on the face of it, we are saying, I have forgiven you. At some level, we are kind of okay with the other person. But if we still remember what happened, what we are remembering is not the fact, but we are still holding on to the emotions attached to the fact. So, in the truest sense, forgiving and forgetting is also forgetting the emotions of hurt and anger and hatred which we probably felt when we were wronged. Forgetting that and letting go of that is more important, and that is the true forgetting, along with the forgiving. I remember in school, in one of the English classes, this phrase, and I clearly remember our Professor Joe Sheth had said, uh, it's about burying the arrow and not leaving a mark. He said you can bury the arrow, but if you continue thinking about it, then you are still leaving a mark in your mind. But you have to bury the issue and not leave a mark in your own heart. That is true forgiving and forgetting.
When you say this, it's not sometimes the high moral ground. It's more easier said than done and everything. But in practice,
Yeah,
one of the questions that come in our mind is when you actually go through the whole process of forgiving,
yeah.
what are those challenges that come to us as humans, typically when you want to forgive?
Uh, the ego. Okay, that's, I mean, it may sound counterintuitive, or you may wonder that what's the role of ego in this? Sometimes we enjoy holding on to our pain. It legitimizes, validates, and makes us feel good in playing the victim card because we were wronged. So we have to be careful and be very aware of our internal makeup, in that sense that we are not playing the victim card and living with that poor me and see what happened to me, right? So one is holding on to it because in a way it's something which our egos enjoying. But the second aspect, and I'm going to read out uh, a paragraph from my reflection on this, where I've said, why is it that we find it easier to forgive? than to ask forgiveness. And that's the second aspect. That's very important, that we ourselves have to uh, also be comfortable in asking for forgiveness. It's our ego that prevents us from apologizing. When sometimes, sorry, we sometimes feel our image will be affected and we will look weaker. Sometimes it just feels awkward and we don't know how to. So I think the difficulty is that partly we want to hold on to it, partly we just you know, don't know how to when we have wronged. Partly we just take too much of onus and responsibility on ourselves, and partly I think it's just the fact that when you get hurt so deeply, even though you've decided to let go, we don't give it enough time. And I think that's the other aspect of forgiveness. So the act is over and done with. Now what are we dealing with? If you really think about it, now we are dealing with the emotions of hurt, anger, hatred, regret, or whatever else may have happened. Emotions, like in our system, like, okay, you sprain a muscle or a ligament is torn, and it takes lots of sessions of physiotherapy and lots of time to heal it. You have to move slow, you don't have to put weight on that muscle. So it's the same with our emotions. It's not click of a button that, okay, I've decided and now I'm done, tomorrow morning it's going to go. So we need to sometimes give ourselves time, which is why the whole practice of quiet time, the practice of giving ourselves silence and space, the practice of allowing our thoughts to surface, the practice of introspection, reflection, for lots of people, meditation, it's just creating that space and silence to allow some of the deeper wounds in us to heal. That's when the true forgiving and forgetting will happen.
Awesome. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to us and who write to us and who watch
Yeah.
uh,
Mm.
our podcast on a regular basis. This is from one of the conversations that I had. That we empower a lot of our second line managers or our key people in our organization. How do you, and often you give them that space, and they make mistakes and you want to forgive them for their mistakes, but here comes a big question. Sometimes at these levels, these mistakes can be expensive. So the question is, how do you balance forgiveness with holding someone accountable for their actions?
So, Ajit, let me share with you something that happened to us, to me personally and our company, and this was in the year 2008. So, I'm talking about 16 years ago, at which time we were probably one fifth the size of company that we are. So, we were anyway very small company. We were a much smaller company, and from experience that small companies are very vulnerable and fragile. 14 people left our company to join competition. 14 guys from the sales team. Two of them were senior managers. And when this happened, and this happened in a span of, I think, about 6 months or 8 months, I remember calling for a meeting internally. And I said, competition is focusing on us. We will focus on the customer. We will not direct any negative energy towards our competition. We will only continue positively serving our customer and making sure we hold on to our customer base, we continue growing it. And long story short, out of those 14 people, 13, and this was orchestrated by two senior managers, by the way. You're talking about the second line, right? And these were two people in my second line whom I had considered to be highly trusted people. Because as you know from experience, Ajit, in small family run businesses, our circle of leadership is a small circle of a few handful of people. And these two guys were part of that circle. And long story short, out of the 14 people, 13 people left competition. And this all happened within a year. One person remained. And the two senior managers, one of them met me. And I remember meeting him at Pune Club. And I asked him, I said, Manish, what happened? And he started weeping like a child and said, "Sir, I don't know. They just offered me more money and I got carried away." And my next words to him were, I said, "Look, whatever has happened has happened. Whatever damage was done is done. That cannot be undone." And this fellow was going to Canada to kind of, he had got a job over there. I said, "Look, go with a complete clear mind and a clean heart, because I have washed this incident from within completely. And I'm honest with you that I don't hold any grudge or anger towards you. So don't ever feel the heaviness that, I'm still harboring this anger towards you. I really don't. Please go with a clear heart and make a great future for yourself." And I'm telling you, in a way, it had lifted the burden off me. I said, if I have to build this company and respond to one of my biggest challenges, I cannot do it with a heavy heart. The second manager came and met me twice asking for his job back. You know. So my point is that, of course, we hold people accountable. People make mistakes. If they make the same mistake repeatedly, then that's not forgiving. Then you're carrying baggage with you. Then you're not making objective decisions. You're getting sentimental about your people, and you're finding it difficult to have difficult conversations. If somebody makes a mistake, which we're all entitled to, I think we need to convert those into learnings and insights rather than losing our uh, temper and screaming at people. And when we feel that someone has really messed up, okay, y- you know y- it's important to make them understand the consequences, but you have to also put them on a little bit of notice to say, listen, if this continues happening, then maybe we're not the right organization for you. So I thought I'll just share what happened. And when you spoke about the second line, it just reminded me of that incident.
Amazing. That kind of actually, I mean, it's a pain point that I think as entrepreneurs we all, you know, uh, we've all gone through it, or we always anticipate, and often we are always in that fix. You know, what he did was not right. Should I forgive? Should I not forgive? And
Yeah,
that keeps us awake at the night. But
yeah.
fabulous experience sharing, and thank you so much for this, Vivek. But that's what time we have for today. So, and those stories were truly thought provoking. With some very deep insights. It certainly gives us plenty to ponder about the balance between exploring values and business growth. I'm going to encourage each of you to not keep these ideas to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and family and ask them, what do you think? Spark a conversation and see where it leads. And we'd love to hear from you too. Join the dialogue on our social media platforms. Share your questions, your learnings, and insights you've gained from this episode. It's through these shared experiences and perspectives that we all grow and learn. So don't hesitate to reach out and contribute to this ongoing conversation. Your voice matters in shaping a more ethically driven business world. Well, that's it for today. And join us again next week for another enriching episode of Life.EV, where we continue our exploration into the fascinating world of exploring values in our lives. Big thank you to Vivek for his invaluable contributions today. And we look forward to diving deeper into these critical discussions in our next session. So, see you next week, where we'll unravel more insights and perspectives that shape our ethical compass. Thank you for listening. And remember to reach out to your friends and get a conversation going on Life.EV, Life Exploring Values. Thanks a lot, Vivek. See you next week.
Thanks, Ajit. Take care. Look forward to next week. Bye.
Bye bye.